Before that, I was in college and then a grad school program. It's a master's of religion. I didn't really know that I wanted to go into journalism. I had done an internship when I was in college at my small town paper in Lincoln, Illinois. And they're the type of shop where you got to take your own photos, you did it all yourself. I was basically writing full stories that could be on the front page from my second day or something like that. And I sort of rolled my eyes and said, journalism is so easy, why would I ever want to do that as my career? And it turns out that I sort of was left with nothing but journalism because I had these very strange interests where I loved studying religion and I loved writing and I really loved being a student where you get to learn new things and do reading for fun. And so as I was in this grad program just wanting to take more classes about religion, it became pretty clear that being a religion writer was an ideal scenario where I learned new things every day and cover all sorts of different topics throughout the year. So I graduated in May 2014 and was just going to look for some internships. I wasn't sure yet sort of where I wanted to even live. So I went on journalismjobs.com and searched faith, hoping that it would bring up some sort of position related to that. And some of you in the room might guess that the Deseret News attaches faith to literally every job posting they have because of the LDS Church guidance of it. And so I just applied to be on their national team. You guys might see the national edition here on campus. I think it's in its own box and comes every Friday. They are not really working, at least when I started, in a Utah context. It was covering all different issues that matter to America as a whole. So I came on focused on faith because they said, hey, you have an expertise, clearly. And I got to write all sorts of interesting articles that first summer, a lot of it based on research studies. So it was like, how many people put their own personal religion on their resume, and does that affect their potential to get that job? And let's talk about that with experts, things like that. As I came to the end of that 4-month internship, there was interest on both sides for me to keep working there, but there wasn't an opening to be like the full-time faith reporter. So they actually created a beat called Wellness at the time, and it was a really odd adventure in writing about things like, is yoga good for your soul, and things like that. And I still got to do faith quite a bit for fun, just because, like I said, this is my passion point, this is why I wanted to be a writer. And luckily, after a few months, there was that position opened up, and they said, okay, this is your time now, let's let you take off running. So I've been the full-time reporter on faith for about 1.5 years, and I'd say my coverage breaks into 2 main areas. One is just faith-driven stories. How do people live out their faith in the world? Does it affect where they go to school? Does it affect how they raise their kids? Does it affect how they respond to Trump's immigration ban and stuff like that? And then the other piece of it, which may immediately make half of you fall asleep, is religious freedom, which is sort of how our government balances laws with your own religious expressions and what you're allowed to do in public, and what like BYU is allowed to do as an institution in terms of housing for married students and whether that applies to same-sex married couples and things like that. So I was very confused about what that meant when I was first tasked with covering it, and luckily had some great sources along the way to help me. One of the things I know that was sort of on the flyer about what I wanted to talk about is what it's like to work in this very intensely LDS context as someone who is not a Mormon. I grew up Presbyterian, which is part of that blob of Protestant faiths, just sort of general Christian. Knew very little about the LDS Church when I've been in the Midwest and went to college in the Midwest and on the East Coast. I did meet the LDS chaplain that was at Yale. That's where I did my grad program. So, I mean, it was baptism by fire when I got here. I had no clue sort of what the key issues were or anything like that. And luckily I had some very patient editors in my newsroom who could sort of navigate the potential pitfalls, because there are just certain issues that you have to be aware of. If I'm going to cover medically assisted suicide and how different faiths respond, that doesn't mean that someone from the church gets to read through my article before it's published. It's just being sensitive to the fact that a huge majority of our readers probably feel this way about it because this is the LDS Church's stance on it. Let's be sure to be fair to that viewpoint, even as I include other opinions. So I haven't been called upon to cover LDS Church breaking news or something like that. There's a new college president. This week I know was sort of a flurry of different announcements, and my old editor, Clark Gilbert, being moved, and now is going to come back to Salt Lake City. But anyway, the only time I would sort of be directly called in is if they have run out of resources, and it's like, okay, Kelsey, you can handle this one. And so recently I got to cover just talking to different LDS women who had taken part in women's march events, and that was a really awesome experience because I sort of had them articulate why their faith maybe called them to do that, and then pull it together. And it may have actually been a really awesome thing for a sort of outsider to be the one writing that. It was a sensitive topic. There, you can read the comment thread on the article to see how angry a lot of people were. And so it was a cool experience. And so since I've been with the national edition, we've been shifting a little bit. You wouldn't really notice it if you picked up the paper, but there is no national website anymore. It's just all housed on deseretnews.com. Most of my work would be in the green section called In-Depth, and that means we write big feature projects that are about 1,500 to 2,000 words, and for something bigger it would go up all the way to 3,000, 5,000, something like that. And I am sort of given free rein to pitch any sort of article that has to do with faith. The goal is to obviously have there be some news event that it's related to, but it's not so much saying, here's what happened today, it's more like, here's what happened yesterday, let's interpret that for what it means for you, readers. And they also recently added to my responsibilities local faith reporting, so it's basically anything that is not the LDS Church in Salt Lake City. So recently, the Catholic diocese there is got a new bishop. It was announced. I had to go to the press conference and things like that. And it's funny because it's sort of going full circle all the way back to that experience at the Lincoln Courier, where it's like, go to this event, cover it, and what have I learned from these 2 years of writing long features to bring to that? Well, we'll still figure that out because it's been an interesting couple weeks as I'm like turning things around on quick deadlines. So just to tell you a little bit more about religion writing, because I'm not sure how many of you in the room knew that that was a very specific concentration that you could get into. There is a dedicated religion reporter at the Washington Post, the New York Times, Vox.com has one. Most newsroom has someone who at least has a faith and values type specialty, and maybe it's because they grew up attending church and have a lot of church-going friends, or maybe it's because they have an academic background like I do. And you're not only charged with talking about these institutional moments, like the LDS Church has announced this new policy, the Catholic Church is going to have a new bishop in Salt Lake City. It's also, like I said, how does this current event interact with faith? Here's a really cool movie that's in the theaters right now. Do religious audiences approach it differently than the rest of us, or something like that? So it's a lot of fun. And just to tell you a few of the cool stories I've had a chance to do, one of the weirdest ones for my first year was about how religions would react to life in outer space. It was an incredibly weird idea I had, and luckily someone had written a book recently about it. And it wasn't talking about aliens so much as just, if there was a plant growing on Mars, how would we respond? Oh my gosh, did God put that plant there? Are religions prepared to deal with that? In terms of my favorite stories, during my internship, I got to do sort of a pet project, which was writing about the prayers that take place at the end of NFL games. The only reason you would know they exist is that sometimes they're showing the commentators, and there's like this random circle of people from both teams off on the field. And so I had just had some contacts that were chaplains in the NFL and got to dig up the story. It goes all the way back to this Giants 49ers game, and there was a fist fight in the middle of the field. Oh wait, but there's a prayer 10 yards away. So it was a really fun project. And then the other interesting thing to note is that for a lot of my time at the Deseret News, we're talking just phone interviews, which may sound like the most boring thing on earth if you guys are out here at BYU doing cool event coverage. It is. It can be really hard. You don't have a lot of interesting tidbits to add to your stories. You don't have to say what someone's wearing or even what their face looks like when they're talking to you. But I did get to dip my toes in that water a little bit in my early time with the Deseret News, because we did a story about the idea of pilgrimage, traveling for a religious reason, sort of taking the spiritual journey. And there's one that's probably the most famous in the US that's in New Mexico. And its biggest moment is Easter weekend, and this was on Good Friday. And so I actually got to drive down there myself and wander about and talk to people who had walked like 13 miles that morning from where they left their cars so that they could come and be a part of this big event and maybe touch some sacred dirt that was supposed to heal your injuries. I had a long interview with a woman who was suffering from cancer herself and wanted to sort of be a part of that for her own reasons, but she also just had gone every single year. She said she felt like she owed it to her family to just pray for them as she had done every Good Friday for 10 years or something like that. So that was a really weird, embarrassing experience in some senses, because the freelance photographer who was helping me actually was like, here, Kelsey, talk to these people. Here, it's like, let's get you out of your comfort zone and talking to people. Don't just lurk over there with your notebook taking weird observational notes. So hopefully I'm getting better about that. Like I said, they're sort of getting me out of the office more and more. The bigger projects that are a little nerdy or more academic are on that religious freedom topic. It's saying, let's look at Obama's 8 years in office and say, what are the key moments? And when I say that that's more academic, it's because you can't just sort of go to every potential source and say, here, write me a couple pages of like what you think are the key moments. You have to do a lot of the work yourself and say, I think this is probably the key theme here, and then I can focus in with each person I interview and say, can you just reflect on this? Hey, do you remember this speech you made? Did that stand out to you? So that was a pretty proud moment for me, where it said, hey, I've actually learned something about this concept, and now I can share it with other people. Just in terms of what it's like to be a religion reporter today, it's really fun, because like I said, there's a bunch of reporters at other outlets. We're all connected on Twitter. They're sort of more my work family than even my own Deseret News colleagues sometimes, just because we read each other's stuff, we share it a lot. And there's a big organization called Religion News Association that I belong to and help with like their membership committee. And it's great because there's a conference they have every year that's for ideas and for bonding and for your support system. Religion can be a pretty tricky topic to cover sometimes, as I'm sure you all observe here on campus. Not every Mormon is the same type of Mormon. There's very different ways to live out a faith. And so when you're going to tell a story that says, here's what Catholics think about this, here's what Lutherans think about this, you're going to offend hundreds of people, thousands of people, and you want to draw on the support of other people in the same position as you to say, let's sort of take stock together. How could we do that better next time? Who is the voice of authority for Muslims in the US? Who do I talk to for a Jewish holiday story that would make the most sense? So I've been really lucky to have some mentors through that organization that are helping me out, and just have great people at the Deseret News as well. I came into this 2.5 years ago really having no clue what it would be like to write every day, and just feeling like, well, at least I have the religion thing down. I've studied this for 4 years now. I feel great about it. No, I don't know anything. I still have to like Google to check even basic claims I make about like, what does Ash Wednesday symbolize to the people who celebrate it? And it's important to be really humble when you're covering these things, like I said, to have each source really explain to them what they or explain to you what they believe, so that you can write the best story possible. It's rough to have to write on a deadline, as I'm sure all of you know, for class assignments and things like that. That never really goes away. If you're going to go into journalism, you have to be prepared for a lot of like angsty nights where you're stressed out about your story coming out the next day, or you have a deadline the next day, so you're basically dreaming up the weed you're going to write or something like that. My fiance came with me tonight, and he knows how stressed out I can be on a daily basis, so I have to give a shout out to him. But it's amazing, because I think I touched on it from the beginning, that I was looking for a career where I could just continue to learn without paying tuition, and this is absolutely that career. Just this week I'm studying the Sikh faith and talking to people who have had these experiences I couldn't even imagine, and to hear what they have gone through in this case, to be allowed to have their beard as a soldier, it's just incredible. I mean, I want to talk to this guy on the phone this afternoon just as a friend, not as someone who's interviewing him. So I feel really lucky, and it's fun, sort of within the Deseret News bubble, to be thought of as like a young, intrepid, like smart reporter, and I've had a lot of fun because of that, and it's cool to be gifted with this new job to be doing the local coverage as well. So I just wanted to tell all of you, it's really awesome that you came tonight, and awesome that you're pursuing writing and journalism. And like I said, be prepared for a lot of stress, but also a lot of fun. So let me know what questions you have over here.